welcome to Bash You Live. Today, we're the Dean. We're here brought to you by Tackle Direct Studios. Pete Gluszek is fishing the Thousand Islands, right?
Yep, Bass Open.
Bass Open. And we're going to have him live today. Also joining us later will be Bob Downey. He's going to walk through in-depth what is new with Rapala and Humminbird. We had a great ICAST. How many seminars did we film?
We filmed 11. We filmed nine Bass U TV seminars, and we filmed 4 Bass U TV kayak seminars.
We have a lot of content coming your way. I want to give a shout out. While we were at ICAST, we met up with Portland Braided Line, and they are going to be our grand prize today, just so that you guys can see how awesome they are. Great guys over there coming up with some new things. What did you like about ICAST?
You know, just seeing the guys do their seminars. Honestly, there's some good ones coming. Rich did a good job scheduling guys, and yeah, I'm excited to see how they all turn out.
You know what else was exciting? When we met up with Rapala, they have come out with a new soft plastics line called Crush City. If you haven't checked it out, go check them out. I believe everything is open now where they can go buy it. So yeah, check it out. Welcome, Dan Allen, John from Kentucky, Daniel, Brian Yates, Diggs, Howie Range. We are really excited to be here today. Rich,
Yeah, what's going on? Post ICAST, we're getting things rolling. We're going to be talking to Pete and Bob today. PB, we'll call it. Pete's up there trying to catch a PB smallmouth right now, as a matter of fact. He was actually hooked up with a 4-pound smallmouth on the phone this morning when I was talking to him, Justin, on a spook, on top water, and there was like 3 others with it.
Speaking of ICAST, though, he caught, what was that bass that he caught at the ICAST?
He caught a 10-15, almost an 11-pounder. Almost an 11-pounder. MLF scales might have said it weighed 815, but the Cull Commander scale on the boat that they were on said it weighed 1015. So we're calling it a 1015. It's a giant. On a frog.
On a frog, yeah. We're running our Frog Phase of Summer promotion. So don't forget, if you are not a member, head over to bashu.tv and get signed up. You'll get some Spro Frogs, Bass U camo hat, and more. And if you're not ready to take that full jump, we are doing 30 days for $1. So head over to bashu.tv. You ready, teacher?
It doesn't look like Pete's ready. So whoop. Here he goes. Here he comes. Here he comes. And the Dean.
What's up, everybody? Miss you guys.
We miss you. I don't like being in the seat. We need you back.
It's really cool seeing you guys in my seat. It was really interesting listening to you guys recap ICAST. It was great. We've been at ICAST now for 12 or 15 years, and it's changing, and everything is is different. But after we got through the COVID scare, and we seem to be back in full force at ICAST now, which is really great to see. Except for our producer who has COVID now. Are you guys all feeling okay?
Perfectly fine.
Feeling great.
Good. That's awesome. It's he got COVID. We all survived it. I'm feeling good. I like where I'm at right now. This is one of my favorite places on the planet. I'm gonna try to turn around. It's way off in the distance. I don't know if you can see it. Can you see the castle?
Yeah.
Is it too far away? I think I got it nailed. I think that's Bolt Castle. That is Bolt Castle. That's what I'm trying to show you guys. And it's way off in the distance. It's one of the famous iconic features of the Thousand Islands region. That and the monster smallmouth, right? Which is why we're here. And I appreciate you giving away the lure that I was using while we were talking earlier, Rich.
Yeah, you got to give it away. This is Bass U, brother.
we give it away after the tournament, during.
Well, little do they know that was just a diversion. We know what you were throwing it on. It wasn't that.
Yeah, it was different, but no, that was cool. And dude, that 10-15 that came in, down at the ICAST Cup, for those of you guys that didn't see or hear, monster bass, a 10-pound, 15-ounce on a Spro poppin' frog, one of the frogs that you get when you sign up for an annual subscription at Bass UTV. So that was super cool. And the guys that I fished with, want to give them a shout out. Corey and Jake, they did an amazing job. It was really great. Just, you show up, they found a couple of groups of fish. We threw frogs at them all day and had a blast doing it. And really, really good time down there. But we are at Thousand Islands, guys, and this place, man, it's full of fish, but you got to catch the big ones, and that means 4-pound class or better. The lake is closed, so we are restricted to the St. Lawrence River, which is, there's giants here too, but there's not quite as many giants. So the weights might not be, I think last year, Corey Johnson, or 2 years ago when we were here we were out of Clayton and the lake was open. This is amazing. He had like a 26-pound average to win that tournament. And even just as amazing was the co-angler, who's only allowed to catch 3 fish a day, had 33 pounds. 33 pounds for 6 bass. That's a pretty good day, Justin. Would you, wouldn't you say, being a co-angler from time to time, 30 of over a 5-pound average, that's pretty good.
Yep. I would take that any day of the week. That's for sure.
How's
Heck
the
yeah.
water there? Is it super clear?
The water is clear. The water is that's what makes this thing kind of special too. It's just beautiful. You can see, we were in places yesterday. We were in 20 feet of water, and easily being able to see the bottom, which is pretty phenomenal. And that's one of the things that it's a great sight fishing lake, and if you can find them up in the shallows, whether they're spawning or not spawning, a lot of times you can target them visually, with my Hobies. And it's a big deal, right? You got to have the right glasses, because it's so important, because you got to be able to read the mannerisms of the fish, whether he's on the bed or he's just cruising and feeding. You've got to be able to lead these fish and present a bait to them so that they don't get startled. And but the clear water lets you do that, and it's so cool. Your boat will be situated in 10 feet of water, and it's as if there's no water there. It's like you're floating on air. You can see everything, and you see the perch, the bottom, the rock. Of course, if you're lucky, you can see big giant smallmouth swimming around. And here's something, Riz. Let me know what you think about this. I'm rooming with Ish, and I just passed Bobby Lane, and both, superstar largemouth guys. What do you think? You think largemouth are going to play in this tournament?
I mean, at a place like that, Pete, with that many giant smallmouth swimming around, it's tough to want to go target specifically largemouth. But I mean, we've seen it. We've seen it certain times a year where, single day events have gotten one on largemouth before up there. And, there's definitely some really big ones swimming around. And, it's not a bad thing to have in the back of your pocket. If you got a few of those big giant smallies and you go flip up a couple 4.5-pound largemouth, you might be scratching something. It's and honestly, I took a little Bass U lesson away from this when we were up at Champlain 2 weeks ago. And it's all about, if you can find where you're confident and you're comfortable fishing, you're going to do pretty well, and if you can get kind of that 2-pronged approach going. I know typically the St. Lawrence isn't thought of as a mixed bag place for the winning fish, but hey, there's a good chance there's some really competitive fish in the mixed bag arena.
I agree. They had a I don't know if it was elite. I think it was an elite tournament, and 3 of the top 10 were weighed in all largemouth. That's extremely rare up here.
In the elite a couple years ago, yeah, Brock Mosley was one of those guys.
Brock had he has the best ever in recent times with a 2nd place finish on largemouth, and you'll see big ones, but boy, it's just so hard to compete with the big smallies, and because there's many 4-pound smallmouth, you have to work just a little bit harder to get those largemouth. So I don't know. I came up here, I looked for largemouth a little bit, I spent some time, and I think I'm gonna, barring anything unusual, I still have a day and a half of practice left, so depending on what I find, but right now I think I'm just going to key on the smallmouth.
Right.
I've been seeing some 4-pounders. We've caught an occasional 5-pounder when we fished. Hard to find a concentration. It seems like the areas that I've found have like mixed bag of size. 2, 3, 4, and you got to go through them to get into that 4 or 5 pound class fish, which I haven't really let myself do. I'm kind of catching one here, one there, and then kind of leaving, saving them for Derby Day. I think that's a pretty smart move.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm going to target them, and I don't know, the shallow bite. Here's an interesting thing is the smallmouth typically can be spawning, and I think there's probably some spawning going on here on this body of water, but I can't find it. But I imagine, there might be some guys that are catching the very tail end of the spawn. That'll be interesting to see. I've seen vacant beds, just craters like on the moon when you get into the right spot, but I've not seen any active beds. So, but that could be a thing up here. It's 70-degree water temperature in the river, and it's if you get to the mouth of the river, it's a little warmer there because that water's coming out of the lake, and it seems like that's about 75 degrees when you're down in the Cape Vincent area. So post spawn, looking like post spawn for me. And,
right.
I'm gonna have to junk it up, but you guys said it. I am becoming a Ned rig just junkie. Love this stuff. This is the Crush City Ned rig, and it's watermelon and green pumpkin, and this is smallmouth candy. They love it so much. Here's the hardest thing that I'm gonna have trouble with, and I'm trying to solve it every day. Is these big giant fish they're hard to stay pinned on the Ned. That heavy weight, because I'm using a heavier weight version because of the current and the depth that I'm fishing. But man, is it hard to keep pinned. I'm losing. So I got about 48 hours to get this dialed in, or I'm going to be back on the show next week just crying the whole show because if I lose these fish like I've lost them at practice, get them up, they show themselves to you, and then they throw the bait.
Set the hook harder.
I'll be crying, right? But you set the hook harder with the Ned hook that is like nothing. You know what I'm about, and I don't have. It's making me want to make a call right now. Is I got to call our connection Dan over at VMC and see if I can get those swing heads, that new Redline Ned swing head that came out at ICAST. I want to give that a go. That freedom of movement of the hook might just be the answer that I'm looking for.
You're right on that.
It might be. Wouldn't that would be awesome, because those big ones, man, they're having a heck of a time. I'm having a heck of a time keeping them pinned. But I'm excited. This is, like you said, we're fishing for smallmouth. It's one of the premier fisheries on the planet, and other than hanging out with you guys, I can't think of a better place to be.
What do you think it's going to take to win this event? You know, if you have to take a guess, what do you think?
Well, it's a great question because I can't remember in all the time, Corey, but I think Corey won the last Open here, and he, like I said, he had a 26 average roughly, and we were able to fish the lake. So I'm thinking that winning weight's going to get knocked down just a little bit, and I'm going to say you might be able to win with 23 or 24 pounds a day. That'd be yes. I think making the top 10 cut. I think last year at the Open it was 45 cut, and it might be a little maybe a day or 20 a day will make the just because of the nature that we're locked into the river.
Yeah. Well, I think you can do it.
So it took 78 pounds for Corey Johnston the last time that the Bassmaster Opens were there. And speaking of Corey Johnston, he actually believes that this year's Bass Elite on the St. Lawrence River could take upwards of 106 pounds. So that just tells you kind of what the locals up there are thinking and kind of what, the direction that place is trending. Pete, can you kind of talk about
I hope he's wrong, Rich. If it goes that high this week, we're all in deep trouble.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, he had 78 over a 3-day period last time they were there, so that's over 25 pounds a day.
Well, he was in the lake, right? That's a big difference. There's just more big fish per acre when you're in that lake water, but up here in the river. We'll see. I hope it doesn't go that high because I haven't seen that caliber of fish.
So can you walk our viewers through a little bit like how the St. Lawrence River is as a fishery? Because it's really unique in the sense that, it has a lot of current. It's absolutely massive. And there's really kind of, I would say, Pete, there's like 3 sections of the St. Lawrence River that really gets focused on. And just to, break down, I would say kind of the Messina area all the way up top, and then down to like the Alexandria Bay area, and then to the lake itself. And for you guys this week, the lake is going to be off limits. So how are you breaking down a fishery like this, and where are you starting your process of finding these giant smallmouth?
That's, it's interesting, and I'm my strategy, and I don't know if it's the right one, but I practiced close to the lake as best that I could, because what I feel like happens here is a lot of these big fish come from the lake into the river to spawn, and they're just getting done, or they're probably some still doing it. And so I try to err that way, like I feel like I might have a chance to catch a bigger than average size fish down there. So I practice down there, through that area. And then as you get up, you have all these islands. It's 1,000 islands, right? You have flats, you have big grass flats, big sand flats. A lot of these big smallmouth love to cruise those places. And you have a lot of that in the mouth of the river up through probably the Chippewa Bay area. And that once you get to past Chippewa Bay, which is probably, 45 minutes from the takeoff, 45 minutes west, it turns into more of a river. And there are still islands, there are still flats, but not near as many as there are down, in more towards the mouth. So it kind of changes, it gets a little bit narrower, current steps up a little bit, and it's a different kind of fishery. And then by the time you get all the way up to Messina, I mean, you're dealing with, a really good current, and just different. It's not quite as dramatic as it is down towards the mouth, with so many rock islands and so much. There's just so much backwaters and little cut throughs and a million places down here. Up there, it's not so much. Really, a lot of the places to fish as you get further upriver are current seams that can be created by man-made structures, big barge tie-offs, break walls, seawalls, big man-made points that create these current seams. And, that's real prevalent up there. These fish, man, there's no limit to the depth that they'll go. They'll go down to 40 and 50 feet, and you can catch them up in the, and it's been won both times. We were watching Rich, where it was one, I guess in the Ogdensburg area,
Yep.
probably 5 to 40 feet of water, drifting. And this is pretty cool because nowhere on the planet do you fish like this. Only on the Great Lakes, the St. Clair River, the Detroit River, the St. Lawrence River. The current is ripping it, I don't know, 3-4 miles an hour, and you drift. You back drift with anything from a drop shot or a Carolina rig, big weapon here, or a tube or a Ned, and you drift with the current. And it's a really, really effective way to catch fish, and a lot of times catch the bigger ones. And that's going to go on all summer long. It's happening now. I guess, probably the big question is, what depth zone as an angler, are you seeing the bigger fish? Where do you think you can increase your best chance of getting into that 4 or 5 pound class? That's going to be my test, because I've caught them, deep down to about 30 feet. And I've caught them as shallow as in the dirt, and I'm going to have to make some hard calls on Derby Day on where I'm going to spend my time. And, but it's fun, I tell you, if I had my wish, I would be fishing with power baits in the shallow water and just fish that the whole time. If I felt like I could catch a big bag doing that, I promise you that's what I'd be doing. But the deep waters, I think here's the deal. Here's what I'm thinking. They're just coming off the spawn. There's still a lot of fish shallow. There's fish starting to move deep. They're in all these different places. So I'm going to fish all these different places and hopefully get a little luck, I mean,
how much do you have to change the way that you use certain techniques when you're drift fishing, as opposed to just tradition? If you're on a lake that doesn't have that much current and you're throwing a Ned rig or a drop shot or whatever, what are those little adjustments you have to make when you're drifting?
Well, I think drifting, here's my assessment of smallmouth. Really, they love flats. Smallmouth love to be on flats, and a lot of times when we're fishing largemouth or spots, we're really target oriented, and they can be that way here too. But you're setting up, you're throwing at a isolated rock or a brush pile, and you're presenting your bait through that habitat and getting the bite or not, and then you're reeling it in, doing it again, trying to cover that isolated habitat. Drift fishing is different. You're more fishing flats and drops and long distances. Smallmouth love to chase. They love to run baits down, and drifting gives them an opportunity to exercise and get out and chase that bait down. And they love it, especially a lot of times the big fish love to do that. So when you're doing a drift, you may be fishing an area that might break from, I don't know, 25 to 30 feet of water, and you're drifting down that break line, maybe looking for sand spots or hard cover that your baits can hit on the drift, or grass that the fish might be using. So you're covering water and fishing a lot different, taking advantage of the smallmouth's nature. It wants to chase. So I think that's why it works so well. I mean, that's all we used to do back in the day, and I've had really successful tournaments at the top level drifting tubes, which you don't hear people talk about much anymore. You don't hear them talking about drifting a tube, but that's the only way we used to catch them. Now we can do it with a drop shot. We can do it with a Carolina rig. We can do it with a Ned rig, and a tube is still very effective. But That's the key. You know, you might be covering a flat point that's 200 yards long. You might be doing a drift that's a quarter mile or a half mile. Because what happens is as you drift that bait on that edge of the flat or down that flat, the smallmouth find the bait. I think that's one of the big keys. A lot of times when you're fishing a largemouth, you know, you're trying to get that bait in the fish's house, but when you're drifting, you're actually pulling those fish to you. The fish will come out of the woodwork. You might have missed that fish by 20 yards, but he hears that clacking against the rocks or the dragging in the sand and grabs his attention. They're very curious, and you'll pull those fish over towards you. And that's the big difference. You know, one of the other things, the co-anglers. This is a really good co-angler tournament because the co's really have an opportunity to catch fish toe to toe with the boater. There's no question that it's anybody's fish when it comes down to it. And you know that's why you'll often see the co's with heavier average size fish than the boater has, just because them big ones, they don't discriminate. They see a bait down there, they go get it. So it is a great tournament. Go.
Pete, Howie Range wants to know, what are some primary colors to use while drifting?
You know the answer to this question, Howie. You know what color I throw. I throw black. I throw it for smallmouth. I throw it for largemouth up here, and I'll mix it up. You know, like I will throw some of the more natural colors, the green pumpkins, watermelon. I'll mix it up. I'll try to give them different fleck. When the sun's shining, I think having that fleck in the bait can call them in. But generally speaking, man, I love to use those darker colors. Especially the black color. I love that. And then when I'm switching up, this is a watermelon, green pumpkin laminate. I love these laminates too. There's something about it that looks natural. Like you look at fish or anything in nature, it has a light bottom or a dark top. It always has that different hue on its body. I think that's why those laminates work so good, because they're one color on one side and one color on the other. But I promise you, I don't know what the smallmouth are going to bite. Howie, I start out throwing usually black is what I start out throwing, and then I adjust based on what the fish are telling me, and I'll have 5 different colors at my feet that I can switch on and off in an instant. Great question, though, Howie. Wish you, buddy.
Now, can you walk us through what your setup is? Like, what are your rod? What are you throwing? What's your setup?
Well, when it comes to Brooks, hand me this. Hand me the net. Let's just go over that. This is one of my practice rods that I'm using, and this is a cashin'. This is a core cashin' rod, but this is a 7-foot medium action. This is Cortland 10-pound braid high vis. This is paramount. So important to be able to detect strikes, whether you're drop shotting, whether you're throwing a Ned or whatever you're throwing. That braided line is amazing. Check out Cortland line. The high vis is awesome. It doesn't bleed, doesn't lose its color, and is tremendously dependable. So that's what I use on my main, for my main line. I have a Gamma 10-pound leader. I'm going 10 and 12-pound leader on this setup with my Ned. And in this instance, I'm thinking about going to 12. These fish are big. They don't seem to be too line shy. So I'm thinking about scaling it up, because with these zebras around, you need all the help you can get. And, this is a bigger size reel. I like to use the 3,000 and 4,000 reels with the big spools. It allows me to move a lot of line really, really fast. And that's one of my setups. But here's the deal, man, when I'm smallmouth fishing, I might have 15 rods on the deck of the boat. Everything from throwing a jerk bait to a topwater or spinner bait. And then when I'm drifting, I'm going to have a variety. I'm going to have the drop shot, the Ned, Carolina rig, and a tube. They're going to be my 4 big drift baits that I got rocking and at any given time when I'm drifting. So we could do a whole show on rigging for smallmouth. As a matter of fact, we have it on Bass U TV. You can really go check out my whole system. I call it like the magic button or the magic bullet. There's always one for smallmouth, and it's our job as anglers to find what that little secret weapon is. So a lot of bait. It's funny when my co's ask me on the night before pairings, it's like, what are we throwing? And I can open up a tackle box and show you 50 different baits, because beyond, between me and you guys, I never know what they're going to bite on tournament day. I have a series of confidence baits that I am ready to throw at any time. And I have to let the fish tell me every time what they're going to bite, because they'll change. They change color habits. They'll change depths. They'll change their mood, their aggressiveness in an instant. So when it comes to smallmouth, you got to be ready to change. And I try to teach people all this deal too. Is you want to be confident in the baits. Like you want to, whether you're picking up a drop shot or a topwater or spinnerbait, you want to be 100% confident that you're going to be able to catch them with that bait. So that takes a little practice, right? That's something you got to get out there and you got to get after it and get some time in fishing for smallmouth and getting used to their habits, because you really got to be confident. If they stop biting a bait, I've seen guys get crushed because hey, I was catching them yesterday on a jerk bait, and now I can't catch them, and you get spun out. But they'll change from a jerk bait to a topwater to a Carolina rig in a moment's notice. So as an angler, don't get discouraged by that. Be excited about it. Be prepared. Like, oh, things are changing. Let me see if I can find the next tool that these fish are moving to. So that's my smallmouth system. Guys, go check it out. It's on BassU.TV right now.
What is your percentage at for your Epoch battery? Did you drain it yet?
I cannot drain them. It's unreal. And I'm honestly trying to drain them. I go on the app and I'd tell you right now, but I think I might lose the feed if I do that. But I use the app every day when I'm charging it to see where I'm at, see how much I spent, and confirm that I got a full charge, which I always have the night before. But I burn them up. I'm using on the Minn Kota. I use the north heading function and the constant on function when I'm using it more and more, but especially up here when I'm trying to cover flats or I'm in the heavy current. I put that on constant, and it'll be hours going by of just constant, usage by that motor, and it's unreal. I'll get back to the house. I still have 60% reserve left in the battery. It's just amazing. You got to go check out those epochs, and which I don't have yet, and I want. There's two big things I want from ICAST already. Is number one is that VMC swing Ned head, but the other one is the new Minn Kota brushless motor, which I had an opportunity to check out, and I'm very excited to get that motor on my boat. The steering motor has been upgraded dramatically and is just quiet, and of course the motor's super quiet. The numbers were crazy. Like my motor right now, I can get 2.7 miles an hour out of my boat with my trolling motor. The new Minn Kotas get you up to about 4.7 miles an hour. So it's a tremendous upgrade for me. I love that motor. I can't wait to get it. And it's the integration into the One Boat network and all its other functionality is just added bonus for me. I'm really excited about that. There's so many, and big congrats to Ike for winning best in category again for his soft plastic glide bait. How about that? One of us, one of our own crushes it again. Josh, was everybody buzzing around the office?
Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, when Mike found out we were in the middle of the lobby bar and there was some screaming. Believe it or not. I know it's hard to believe.
There was? Did he like jump up on his chair? What happened?
He just was so excited. I mean, he was carrying that Nessie around all weekend and doing the adventures with the Nessie, which was really funny. I don't know if anyone really got to see his stories, but he took the Nessie everywhere he went.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
He's got a knack. He's getting those. He's getting two swim bait varieties. Have one best in show, one best in show, all categories, and that was in the swim bait category. So congrats to Ike, and that's really cool. I had a blast at ICAST, guys. Everybody did such a wonderful job down there. It was great seeing all of our sponsor partners and talking to some new people that are interested in Bass University, and that's fantastic. Lets us know we're all doing a really good job. So I appreciate you guys, and you guys are going to have to let me go because I've got to go try to win this tournament for us.
That's right.
Everyone has a piece of advice: stay in the boat.
It's 70-degree water. It looks pretty.
Might not be a bad idea.
It looks pretty refreshing right now. It might be just what I need. Who knows?
Mm-hmm.
Well, if you guys need me, how to get in touch with me. Should give a hello to Bob Downey. It was great to see him at ICAST. I'm glad to have him on the show, and I wish I could corner him and dive into some smallmouth fishing with him. I think I could. I think I'd appreciate some advice from him.
As a matter of fact, he's doing that right now. He's going to be coming to us live from the boat, so it's a double boat segment here on Bass U TV.
Is he here at the Open this week?
No, he's not. He's up around his house, and he's just dialing some things in, getting ready for the northern swing. Just perfecting the craft, as you would say. So we're excited to talk to him.
Awesome. Well, I'm going to take my Crush Cities and my Ned rig and go to work. And I hope you guys have a great rest of the day, and hope everybody at home does too. I will catch up with them next week.
Yep.
See you guys.
Good luck, Pete. Catch them up.
Pete.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Well, I did want to mention, I know our mics were out for a little bit, but don't forget to head over to our Facebook Live and like and share for a chance to win some Waterwood custom baits. And we also have a trivia question at the end where we will be giving away some Cortland braided line. And as you just heard from the Dean himself, it's pretty awesome. So pay attention. We're going to take a little break.
Quick commercial break, and we'll be right back with Bob Downey. What's going on? It's Riz here from the Bass University, and I am excited to welcome in Waterwood custom baits to the Bass U family. These are custom handmade baits in the South Rainforest of Brazil. They're made of Marupa pedra wood. It's extremely dense, it's resistant, but it's also really buoyant. They're made of quality components with a 100% guarantee. They're made for tournament anglers to get it done when the money is on the line. Guys, that was like my second cast with this bait. That's a Waterwood custom bait. These things are handmade in the rainforest south of Brazil. And I mean, as you can see right here, it's a fish catching bait. It's got the front hook. That means they wanted it. This bait's, it's running really true. It throws really well. Guys, check them out at waterwoodcustombaits.com.
the leader in underwater viewing technology. Find what you are looking for. Catch more fish. Have more fun. AquaView. Seeing is believing.
Why do you love catching fishing rods?
I'm truly losing less fish.
Is the sensitivity of the rod.
That they're made right here in North Carolina in the USA. Strongest, lightest rod, 100% made here in Sanford, North Carolina.
From the drop shot rod to the flipping stick. Every rod has a purpose to it, and I rely on them all the time when I'm out there in a tournament.
Durability in the John Cruz Worming series, the counterbalancing in the handle.
It's the only rod I found that can withstand my hook set. Boom goes the dynamite.
On the water not spent fishing is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together. The One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
We're back.
Welcome back to Bass University Live. Awesome little recap there with Pete. He's up there at the St. Lawrence River chasing around those boulder broncos, those big giant brown ones, those absolute just beasts from beneath. I mean,
Beast.
gosh, it's just seeing him up there and seeing that water is making me want to be up there fishing. Luckily, we headed back up to Champlain next week. That's going to be good. Justin, let's do a quick little recap of our Champlain trip before we get to Bob. This will just be 1 minute. You know, our people on social definitely knew that we were up there, so let's kind of give them a little bit of a glimpse into it. What was your thoughts on Champlain? Because that was your first time there.
I fell in love with the lake. The first day we started off, I hit my head real hard, snapped off. Riz called nice, like 3-pound smallie, and then a couple minutes after that, I hooked up, and from there, it's
Didn't something happen with your lunch?
Oh yeah, well yeah. On tournament, I had a good week. I caught a lot of fish and had some other stuff happen. But what Jocelyn was referring to, the day of the tournament, I was walking down the boat ramp with my little lunch sack that I needed for the day, and my whole bag ripped, and my waters were rolling down the ramp into the water, and everybody was looking at me. But other than that, no, it's awesome lake. Like, I mean, like you mentioned earlier, you got to fish your strengths on a fishery that, you know, has giant smallmouth in it, tons of smallmouth. You can do whatever you want there. It's
really,
it's so diverse. That's what I love about it.
It really is. And guys, it's one of those places that needs to be on your bucket list. And we actually shot a show up there a few years ago. I think it was 2019. Mm-hmm. We shot the Bass University bucket list. And that's on our website, and just really showcases the lake, talks about the history of the lake, talks about all the different kinds of patterns that can be in play. You know, we talked about some of Pete's and Mike's wins up there over the years. Just a really, really awesome show. But yeah, Champlain was a good time. I mean, you know, it's everything was kind of changing when we were up there. Stuff was in transition. Fish were moving. They were kind of everywhere and nowhere. But we ended up having a good time up there. And stay tuned. You'll be seeing some of that content coming out on our social channels here in the next couple of weeks.
Yes,
we actually ran 2 cameras on my boat for our practice days up there, and so we'll get some cool stuff. We got a couple different shot angles. It'll be a good time. But without any further ado, I want to bring on a guy that he's a northern He's a northern fisheries kind of dude. He's a Bassmaster Elite Series pro. He's having a really nice year, and we're starting to head back up into his part of the world. So let's bring him on. It's old Bob Downey. Bob, what's going on?
Not much. I'm just out on the lake practicing my smallmouth skills. So how are you guys doing?
We're doing good, man.
man.
We're doing good. We're in the studio, in the office, wishing that we could be up there, fishing smallmouth with you. But where are you? What lake you on?
Yeah, I'm on a small little lake up by Detroit Lakes. It's a chain of lakes, Lizzie, Crystal, and Rush. And I don't know, it's probably not even a 2,000 acre lake, but there's some decent smallmouth in here, and we got some calm conditions today. So I'm just practicing kind of getting up shallow and picking off cruisers. They're not spawning, but they get up shallow and feed. So it's a really fun bite. And our days are just so limited where this happens up here. So I figured I'd take advantage of it.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we appreciate you taking a little bit of time out for us to catch up and talk. But talking about fishing up there shallow and you're seeing cruisers, what are you throwing at those fish?
Yeah, I mean, the marabou jig is hard to beat. That's kind of a well-known deal now. But, beyond that, I kind of like to have a kind of a combination of rods ready to go at once, where they're just kind of dangling over the side of the boat. The bait's not hooked on, and I can pick it up and fire it at a fish. And I like to throw, a drop shot, little tubes, Ned rigs, Senkos, hair jigs, and kind of just have a rotation of baits, because every one is a little different. It's like bed fishing, where you're switching up your baits until you find out what they want, but they're up there to feed. They're not up there spawning. So I think the crayfish start moving around a little bit more on those sunnier days, calm days, up shallow. And then there's always perch and minnows and stuff up there too. So it's probably my favorite way to fish for smallmouth.
Yeah, that's, it's something that a lot of guys, when they think smallmouth, or people that don't live in the smallmouth parts of the world, you hear smallmouth fishing and you automatically think deep, drop shot, and 20 foot of water, out there live scoping in the middle of the nowhere on the moon. But really, a lot of smallmouth fishing in the summer goes on up north or up shallow, right?
Yeah.
And what makes you kind of decide, am I going to look up shallow today, or am I going to look out deep?
Yeah, it's a really unique deal that if you've never done it before, you'd think, you'd be crazy to go in shallow water on a calm, sunny day. But, for me, the reason I go up there, I like to have calm weather. First of all, that seems to be when it's best. They certainly can get up there in windy conditions, but you can kind of hunt them down a little better when it's calm. You can see a lot better. So, and then sun is a big deal. If you have cloudy conditions, there's still some fish shallow, but your deep bite seems to be more consistent when it's cloudy. So calm, sunny conditions really gives me the green light to get up there and put that trolling motor on 8 to 10 and just go really fast and look with your eyes. And if you see them, mark a waypoint and just keep going, give it a couple 100 yards, let it rest, let those fish reset back up, and then you can make long casts to those areas where you saw them. It's really a cool way to fish for smallmouth.
How much do they stay put? Do they kind of stay in an area, or are they just cruising down the bank and 30 minutes later they could be a mile away, or do they kind of like just stay put for you?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. You do get some wolf packs where they're on the move, especially if the stretch of bank you're on has good habitat for a long ways. They'll meander that whole stretch. But for whatever reason, a lot of times on a flat, there's like a 30 by 30 yard area where they want to be. And if you bump them off of that area on your trolling motor going fast, just mark it, let it rest, let them reset back up, and you can make a long cast to it. So it does seem like, even on a featureless sand flat, there might be like 2 sprigs of cabbage or a little dark spot on the sand, and they just like to sit near something. Maybe it might be one small rock. So they definitely relate to something when they're up there.
Interesting. How long have you been fishing for smallmouth that way? Is Is that something you started doing pretty early on, fishing shallow for them, or?
Yeah, probably not as long as like, some of the Johnstons or Gussie or Fighters of the world, but I've been doing it probably for 8 to 10 years now. And I think it's becoming more well known. It gets exposed a lot on the St. Lawrence River just because that place really lends itself to shallow fishing. It happens on Champlain too, just depending on the conditions. But yeah, I've been doing it for a decent amount of time.
Right. So I got to know, Bob, how did you get the nickname Old Bob Downey?
Yeah, it's a good question. I think the Minn Kota Humminbird guys came up with it my rookie year. I don't really know how. They just started calling me Old Bob. And then they passed it on to Mercer. And, of course, Mercer does what he does with nicknames, and he runs with it. And so I don't mind it. It's kind of maybe like a laid-back, old soul type of vibe to it. So that's kind of who I am a little bit. So I think it works.
Yeah. So you're having a pretty good year, Bob. You're sitting, I think, in 34th, 37th in point, somewhere in that
30.
Yeah, in that range. So you're inside the classic cut right now. You got to have a few more good events. How are you feeling, going north?
Yeah, I mean, I'm glad we're going to the last 3 places that we are going to rather than somewhere in the south. I just feel a lot more comfortable up north. It doesn't necessarily mean you're going to catch them or do well, but I don't think I'll be out of my element anyways. And that always helps on the Elite Series, especially against that caliber of a field. The more confident and comfortable you can feel, the better. So yeah, I'm really looking forward to it.
Is there one that you have circled, over the others that you're really pumped to get to?
I think Champlain. I've never made a cut there. I've fished it twice. I've always had one good day and one bad day during the tournament. So I'm looking forward to trying to piece the puzzle together better than I have in the past. All 3 of them are great fisheries and 3 of my favorites that we ever have gone to. But I'm looking forward to trying to get a little redemption at Champlain.
Gotcha. So coming from you're from Minnesota, right?
Yep.
Coming from Minnesota, what was the biggest transition or the biggest adjustment in your fishing skills that you had to make when you made that jump to the Elite Series and you started going to new places, fishing new water? What did you have to do to get yourself to be an Elite Series pro?
Yeah, it's a good question. And, I'm still working on it every day, but I think, confidence is a big deal on the elite level. And then just, getting familiar with new bodies of water. I did fish down south in college a little bit, and that helped me for sure. It got me away from fishing natural lakes where we get a lot of bites up here. And so college fishing taught me how to stay mentally strong through those tough events where you're just trying to get 5 bites in a tournament. But then on the, going into the Elite Series, I didn't really have any national tournament experience when I qualified through the Opens. And so I didn't know if I could compete or hang with those guys. So just, keeping your head in it and keep pressing and, being, a lot of us have failed a lot over the course of our careers to get to where we're at. So just being able to handle failure well and keeping your head up to eventually push through and have some good finishes and gain some confidence is probably the biggest thing I've had to learn how to do at that level. It seems like locally it was always the same way. When I jumped to the next level, I'd have success, whatever it might be, fishing club tournaments, 10, 15 boats around the house. And then you jump into larger team tournaments and regional events. And it always took me a little bit of time to have some success and gain that confidence and know that I could compete. And I feel like I'm getting there now in my 4th year where I've had some decent finishes, qualified for the Classic, and just try and keep confidence level high.
Was there a specific moment or a specific event even in that timeline between college and the Opens to the Elites where like you felt like you got over the hurdle that you needed to get to like feel like, okay, now I'm comfortable and I can compete at this next level?
Yeah, I would say Lake Gunnersville, my rookie year. That was the year the pandemic hit and our schedule got jostled around. So we went to Gunnersville in September when it was more of a frog and punch and deal. And I do that a lot back home here in Minnesota in September. And so I was real comfortable doing it and ended up 6th place in that event. And that really gave me the confidence that, okay, I can do this. And it also taught me, to fish my strengths too. I just stuck to punching and frogging all tournament and ended up doing well. So it taught me a couple of things. Definitely gave me confidence, but it also told me to, stay with my strengths and as much as you possibly can, at least at the elite level.
What is it about you Minnesota guys feeling so comfortable in that much grass with a big with a flipping rod in your hand, whether it's you or Fighter or Schlapper, it's like you guys all, it seems to lend really well to the way you guys fish.
Yeah. I mean, we grew up fishing natural lakes that are full of vegetation. I think that's a part of it for sure. So we're just used to finding that needle in a haystack, putting the trolling motor down and just fishing until you come across a group of fish. And then punching in particular, we don't get to do it for a large amount of time up here, but there is a window from like late August through late September where a lot of our grass is topped out and the stuff that's dying is blowing into, cattails and reeds and pads, and you can punch a lot of that stuff. And it's honestly one of my favorite ways to catch largemouth.
What's your setup for that, Bob? Your rod, reel, line, all that good stuff.
Yeah, I like a 7.6, either a medium heavy moderate fast or a heavy moderate fast. That moderate fast just gives you the nice bend in the rod that you need to not blow that weight and hook out of that fish's mouth when you do go to set on them. We're using 50, 65 pound braid. So there's no stretch braid. You don't need to be using a extra heavy fast type rod. You're just going to blow that hook. Or if you do get them hooked, you're going to create a big hole in their mouth too. And then when they get caught up in the mat, a lot of times that's when you're going to lose them. So somewhat more of a moderate fast rod is preferred.
Have you dove into the Tokyo rig much?
A little bit. I've fished it on the river a decent amount, flipping wood. It seems to get down into tree limbs and laydowns really well. And my hookup to land ratio is good. I don't really know what it is. My guess is that when they get it, they're getting all hook and there's no weight in the way necessarily. So when you do hit them, especially with it's got that ring on it too, that ring hook deal seems to be, I don't really know why, but you tend to hook them and land them really well with that system.
Do you use that ring hook deal when you're just regular flipping and pitching?
Yeah, like when I'm flipping grass with braid or braid to fluorocarbon leader, more submergent grass, not so much punching necessarily. But yeah, like when you're flipping submerged grass, it seems to be, I don't know what it is. It's something about how they get that hook in the ring. Almost just seems like it finds its way where it needs to and hooks them really good every time.
Is that the EWG?
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Do they make that did they make a ringed hook on the flipping style hook?
No, but I wouldn't be opposed to it.
Yeah, I was just thinking, especially now with those new red lines, those flipping hooks are bad to the bone.
Yeah,
have you well, obviously you've been using that stuff, but can you tell us a little bit about the new VMC red lines and kind of what they have going on with them?
Yeah, so basically we took our most popular bass hooks, all three of the Nico hooks, just the regular Nico, the weedless Nico, and the finesse Nico, all the sizes. Then we got our straight shank flipping hook, worm hook, a round bend worm hook, and then an extra wide gap, as well as a finesse treble. And so our most popular bass hooks, we took them, upgraded basically everything on it. It's got a slick coating on it for better hook penetration. It's got a really hard point on it. You're not going to roll it. And also the keeper systems on the finesse Nico and the straight shank flipping hook have been upgraded from what they used to be. That straight shank flipping hook, the keeper system is one of the best I've ever used. I have yet to break it or have it slip down the shank on me yet. And I've used it quite a bit. That always seems to be an issue with straight shank flipping hooks, is that keeper system will either break or it'll slip down the shank of the hook after you use it for a
Unravel.
while. So, yeah, they've done a nice job. That finesse treble is really sticky. It comes stock on the new Maverick jerkbait that they just came out with, and I've been catching a ton of smallmouth with it and been pretty impressed.
Awesome. Speaking of smallmouth, we have a question on the message board, and that question is, what is your marabou jig that you like to throw, and then what's your setup for that jig as well with your rod reel line?
Yeah, I use a couple just custom ones that a couple buddies make for me.
Can you show us one?
Yeah, I got one right here. I actually just caught one on it before we came live. See if I can get it in the frame here. It's just a little round ball head and smaller hook on it. And my setup for it, so rod is typically a 7.6 medium light, extra fast, St. Croix Legend Elite. And that longer rod with the extra fast tip just allows you to really sling that thing out there. Braid, I use 6-pound Suffix 131 braid to either an 8 or a 6-pound fluorocarbon leader. And it's the only time I use 6-pound braid with any of my stuff. It just allows me to really sling that cast out there further. And then I use an FG knot too, which I think is really important for getting a further cast as well. One thing I do a little different with my leader length is it's generally a touch shorter than what I use with a drop shot or a net or a tube. It just creates so your knot isn't going through as many guides when you're casting, and that also allows for some longer casts. With a drop shot or a net or tube, I'm usually flipping that out or making medium length casts. So I don't really care how many guides my knot's going through, but with that hair jig, you're really whipping it out there. And so the less guides that knot can go through, the further your cast is going to be.
Interesting. And that you said 7.6 on that spinning rod, right?
Yeah, so pretty long. I know some guys will go up to 7.10. I don't really prefer much longer than 7.6. That 7.6 seems to do a good enough job. And I can get that hair out there as far as I want. It's usually at 1/8 ounce head too. And then on that one I was throwing, I don't have a little chunk of plastic on the hook shank, but if you take like a used Senko or something like that and put like a tiny bit on the hook shank, that'll give it a little more weight too, so you can throw it further.
Right, help with the casting. I guess that 7.6 length, that's all about just getting that extra distance on your cast.
Extra distance, yeah, and then the medium light helps when you do hook a fish on that little hook. It just allows for a better hook to land ratio.
Right. Huh? Yeah, that's the hair jig fishing is I've never got to do it, but I want to. It seems like it's such a fun way of catching them. When you're hooking those big giant smallmouth up shallow, do you have to baby them and play them, or are you more so just, getting them to the side of the boat and getting them in because they're up shallow and they can dig into the stuff that you can get in trouble with? How do you land those fish?
Yeah, you take your time a little bit. That hair jig, the hook to land ratio is really pretty good. So I wouldn't say like completely horse them, because you are using a bit lighter line, and that hook is, the gauge of it is smaller, so you don't want to flex out that hook too bad. But you don't have to play them like you're using 4-pound tests or anything. If I'm throwing a spy bait and I hook one on a spy bait, I'll tend to baby those a little bit more depending on how they're hooked, if I can see it. But the hair jig, you play them out, but you don't need to let them just go until they're completely expired and tired out and laying on the surface. You can definitely wrench them a little bit.
Gotcha. Well, from one smallmouth bait to another, I want to talk a little bit about the new Crush City products from Rapala. We got to look at some of those with you at ICAST last week. Can you talk a little bit about the Ned style baits? Because we just had Pete on, and Pete is really happy with them. He's throwing them up there at the St. Lawrence. What makes those baits special? What makes them unique?
Yeah, the Ned style is made out of it's not Elastec, but it's a similar material that is stretchy. and so it floats as well. I think that's really key with the Ned style bait, is that just gives it the action that you need. So it does float, it does stretch, so that's going to allow you to catch a bunch of fish just on one bait too. And it's got a profile that's it's skinnier, but it has some ribs to it, which gives it a lot like a normal profile, I guess you might say. But the skinnier chunk of it on the tail gives it some pretty good action too. So it's not just like a standard little nub that doesn't really have much action. The second half of the bait has some good action to it. It's scented as well, and we've got it in a ton of different colors, whether you're trying to imitate gobies and perch we've got some morning dawn colors in it. We've got straight white. So I think there's like 15, 16 different colors in that thing too. So it can suit any sort of forage or water clarity that you're fishing in. And I've rigged it a couple different ways. Certainly on a Ned head, just fishing along the bottom is kind of your standard way. I've used it on a drop shot with number 2 finesse Nico. I don't think I've got one on right now, but I just thread it on there almost like you're threading it onto a jig head and fish it that way, kind of spine rigged. And then the last way is using what I would call like a tight lining or a Demiki rig technique. Some of my biggest fish that I caught here this morning were out in 20 foot, and I was throwing it on a little 1/8 ounce head and letting it pendulum down to those fish, and then shaking it right above their head with that little Ned BLT. And I was catching some of my better fish doing that this morning.
Were you looking at those fish on the Mega Live?
Yeah, I was. Yep. And I was doing the same thing yesterday. A lot of them yesterday came right below the boat. Actually, there's one little point with some grass and rock and a ton of bait in the area, and I just got into a flurry and was catching them all on that Ned, but I was Demiki rigging it instead of keeping it on the bottom.
Gotcha. So you're out there getting dialed in on everything. You're fishing deep, you're fishing shallow, you're doing everything in between.
Yeah, really trying to. Yesterday I went to a lake that sets up better for a deep bite and did more of that Demiki tight lining, drop shot stuff. And then today I was out offshore in the morning, but we got good sun coming, and so the rest of the day I'm just going to get up shallow and go have fun and see if I can't catch some cruisers.
Heck yeah. How effective is that new Minn Kota trolling motor for what you're doing up shallow?
Oh, it's pretty incredible up shallow. I mean, I can go like 1 to 1.2 mile an hour faster on this, which I know doesn't sound like a lot, but that is a lot throughout the course of a day, especially when you're covering a bunch of ground up shallow. I can get up to 4 mile an hour and really cover ground, and you're just looking. So you can just cover that much more ground in the course of a day, which means you're going to run into more fish. And like I said, if I see one, I mark a waypoint and swing back around eventually. But that and fishing between docks, you can zip from one dock to the next a lot faster. And I think out, the places we got coming, if we got a big wind day, I think we're just going to have no issues in terms of battery life throughout the course of a day, because I can run at a faster speed on number 5 than I used to be able. So I can even tone it down to, let's say, 4 when I'd normally run at 5. And being brushless, it's just better for battery life too.
So when you're up shallow and you're looking for those cruising smallmouth, give me an idea of how much time you actually have to spend like looking. And because like if you're just cruising around, are you even fishing, or are you just holding the rod in your hand and just trolling around and looking for them with your eyes?
A little of both. Like this morning, I was just blind casting the hair jig way out in front of the boat while I'm looking. So I'm not even looking at my rod or looking at my hair jig. I'm just casting and reeling it while I'm looking for smallmouth. And sometimes you'll catch a random one doing that. But for the most part, if I'm on 10 on the troller, it's hard to cast at the same time because you're just moving so fast. And I'll just be looking for them when I'm doing that. And then if I do see them, then I'll really slow down. And you can almost, smallmouth are they're curious creatures. So if you're on a big sand flat where there's a bunch of them, you can pull down and they get really silly. They'll swim to the boat and come check you out, and then they'll swim away. And there's sometimes where you just wait until they kind of start to swim away and lead them with a long cast and catch them that way too. So yeah, they do some crazy stuff up shallow.
So generally when they are up shallow like that and you see one, is it a good indicator that there's probably more than just the one you saw? Probably.
Yeah, unless it's like late in the spawn, sometimes you'll find just like one random one roaming where it was probably spawning and there'll be no other ones around. But this time of year, you get past the spawn, like this spot I just found, I saw one, then I saw two, and then I saw three, and I think I saw five on this one stretch. And so yeah, usually if you see one, there's probably going to be some more with it.
Right. And is it one of those things that, like, if you get the right conditions, say you get calm, sunny conditions, you're going to the bank?
A lot of times, unless I got something deep going that just is better. Like on the St. Lawrence last year, I had a decent finish out there, and I started deep every morning and would get a good limit or a base limit. And then we had calm, sunny conditions, and I would, slowly work my way shallower throughout the course of the day. But that morning bite deep can still be really good if you have a school located, and it can be good all day long too. But if I've got what I feel like is a max weight out deep, then I'll go shallow for sure.
Does the shallow fishing actually get better as you get later into the day?
Yes. Yep, I would say so. Like the higher that sun gets, the better that shallow bite gets. I think the crayfish just get more active up shallow, and smallmouth are sight feeders by nature, and so they can just see better as the day gets, as that sun gets higher. So more and more fish will come shallow as the sun gets higher.
All right, so that's the second time you said the crayfish get more active when the sun gets out. Crayfish are getting active. Why the heck are we throwing a piece of hair?
That's a great question. I don't know, man. Like, I don't really know what that hair imitates, a little leech, a little bug. I just think it's something really finessey that looks really natural, and they just zone in on it. If they've been pressured, they'll definitely, they won't eat it at times, but like today I had one, I threw it right past it in the water column, didn't even acknowledge it. I threw way past it again, got it right to it, and I dropped it and I let it hit hit the bottom, and the hair just like poofed, and the thing went right down and ate it. So I don't know if it didn't want it up in the water column, all of a sudden I dropped it and it thought it maybe was a little craw down there. I'm not sure, but yeah, that hair just seems to get bit up shallow.
It really does. How shallow are we talking? Like 1 foot?
Yeah, one to on this lake I can see bottom in 10 foot, but I would say most of these fish I'll target today are 1 to 5.
So you need to have about 5 or 6 foot of water clarity at least to be.
Yeah. If you have like 3 foot visibility or less, it can be a little difficult. You can definitely still see them at times, but I think that's why the St. Lawrence is so good, and Champlain's pretty clear depending on where you're at. And so if you get like 8+ foot of visibility, that really allows you to see well in that 1 to 5 foot range.
So when you're fishing these clear water smallmouth up shallow, do they tend to group up by size like they do sometimes when they're out deep, or is it more?
They definitely can. They will group up in different sizes as well. It seems like if you find a good wolf pack, like 3 to 5 of them, a lot of times those wolf packs will go in similar sizes. But if you find just a big group of them up on a shallow flat, you'll have all sizes. But those wolf packs seem to be your better quality ones if you can find them. for
That's
sure.
interesting. It's interesting that they move together by size like that. It's
Yeah.
on the way to work this morning. I saw 3 bucks walking across a field, and they were all tall 8s that looked about the exact same size. Early season bachelor groups basically. And it's like it's interesting how animals will all kind of do some of that same stuff. Even we're talking about deer and fish or whatever. Do you did you grow up hunting, Bob?
Yeah, I bow hunt a lot in the fall for whitetails, and I grew up gun hunting. We just don't gun hunt anymore on the land we used to be able to have access to. So I still bow hunt a lot though for whitetails each fall. It's one of my favorite things to do.
How much does being able to pattern wildlife do you think everything kind of translates into fishing?
Yeah, I think it definitely translates. I don't know, just being in tune with the weather and how animals and fish react to different weather conditions. I think you see that in deer hunting, and it definitely translates to bass fishing. The one weird thing with deer hunting is deer tend to move better under high pressure, barometric pressure situations, whereas fish seem to feed better under low barometric pressure. So that's one definitely different thing, but it does teach you how they relate to cover and different pieces of terrain and contour and how they move on edges. Deer relate to edges just like fish relate to edges too. So there's definitely a similarity there.
Right. Speaking of edges, so we were at Champlain this past week, and out in the middle of the lake when you're smallmouth fishing, and it seems like there are no edges. Like, how do you start identifying areas where you start your search for those smallies?
Yeah, I mean, if you've got somewhat of a featureless bottom from a contour standpoint, then you're looking for maybe a tiny patch of weeds or a cluster of boulders. If you've got an entire field of rock and boulders, I always like to look for the sand spots within those boulders. So I'm always looking for something just a little different. Even if it's a featureless bottom, there's usually something those fish are relating to. Even like I said earlier, if it's just a bare sand flat, there's probably going to be a dark patch of something, even if it only sticks up an inch off the bottom. If you got a square dark patch on an otherwise open sand flat, those fish will relate to that. So if your contour isn't changing much, just look for something a little bit different from everything else.
Gotcha. Guys, you got any more questions for Bob?
Yeah, Bob, going back to ICAST, I was just curious, we talked to you at the Rapala booth a little bit. What are some new things that, obviously you got to use the Crush City stuff a lot, but was there anything else at ICAST that piqued your interest that you're excited for?
Yeah, I mean, the new Rapala Maverick jerkbait, I've been using that now since about the Bassmaster Classic time frame, and I've been catching a bunch of fish with it, a ton of smallmouth. It casts a lot better than some of their prior model jerkbaits that they've had. It's got a weight transfer system in it. It's got 3 treble hooks, which I really like on a jerkbait, especially for smallmouth. You just hook them and land them a lot better with 3 treble hooks versus 2. It's got the new red lines on it, so you don't really have to change out your treble hooks if you don't want to. But overall, it's just been a really good both cold water and warm water jerkbait, which can be hard to accomplish. A lot of times you might develop a really good cold water, slower moving jerkbait, and it doesn't perform well under warm water conditions for, let's say, summer smallmouth. But this one does both really well. So I'm excited to have the public, I guess, get their hands on it. I've been using it for a little while now, and we've got a really good color selection with it too.
So out of all the new Rapala baits, moving forward into these next 3 events where there'll be a lot of smallmouth fishing going on, what do you think is going to be the biggest player for you? Like, what's going to put the most fish in the boat?
Yeah, probably that Ned BLT, the little Ned bait, or the 3-inch Mayer. It's basically a kind of like the Largo shad that they used to have. It's a little bit softer though, and we've got a much better color selection. And I could see using that on not only a swim bait head, but doing the Demiki rigging or tight lining technique, or even on a drop shot too. I like to throw a little swim bait on a drop shot if I'm casting it and working it back or drifting. Little swim bait can be good. So I would say either of those two baits.
Sounds like there's going to be a good bit of smallmouth getting caught on those then.
Yeah.
We're
Yes.
finesse swim baits and Ned rigs.
Hopefully, yes.
Well, that's awesome, Bob. Thanks for making some time for us, man. We're going to let you get back to dialing things in, tuning up your skills up there, but we're looking forward to seeing you. We'll see you at Champlain. We'll see you at St. Clair. Yeah, good luck the rest of the way, man.
Awesome. Thanks, guys. Appreciate you having me on.
Good luck, Bob.
All right.
Good luck.
All right. So that was Bob Downey. Got to dive in on a lot of the new stuff from ICAST.
Mm-hmm. Speaking of ICAST, there was one thing that we didn't really get to talk about, but one of the coolest booths that I stopped by was the Aquaview booth. They had their ice trailer, I guess you would call it.
Yep.
And I stopped and saw Colt and Michelle, and they were showing us what might be hitting the market soon. Was something that was really cool. It's basically a camera that's run off of Wi-Fi. Is that right?
It was. Or
and
Bluetooth. It was
Bluetooth. Yeah. And we're really excited that might be coming out soon. And they have such awesome cameras. They were even showing us how they could see their son on the end of the dock feeding a fish with a crawfish.
Huh.
He dove under and was feeding them. So,
So cool.
Hopefully Pete's getting some use out of that on the St. Lawrence with that clear
Sure
water.
he is.
Yeah, I mean, it's the best place in the world to use it. That's for sure. Check out Aquaview cameras at aquaview.com.
You also get a discount with us, so
That's right. You get a lot of awesome discounts.
Mm-hmm.
Take a quick commercial.
Yep, let's do it.
Come back. We're going to give away some stuff and talk
Wrap it
about
up.
what we got coming up next. And be right back.
What's going on? It's Riz here from the Bass University, and I am excited to welcome in Waterwood Custom Baits to the Bass U family. These are custom handmade baits in the South Rainforest of Brazil. They're made of Marupa pedra wood. It's extremely dense, it's resistant, but it's also really buoyant. They're made of quality components with a 100% guarantee. They're made for tournament anglers to get it done when the money is on the line. Guys, that was like my second cast with this bait. That's a Waterwood custom bait. These things are handmade in the rainforest south of Brazil. And I mean, as you can see right here, it's a fish catching bait. It's got the front hook. That means they wanted it. This bait's, it's running really true. It throws really well. Guys, check them out at waterwoodcustombaits.com.
Aquaview, the leader in underwater viewing technology. Find what you are looking for. Catch more fish. Have more fun. Aquaview. Seeing is believing.
Why do you love catching fishing rods?
I'm truly losing less fish.
Is the sensitivity of the rod.
That they're made right here in North Carolina in the USA. Strongest, lightest rod, 100% bait here in Sanford, North Carolina.
From the drop shot rod to the flipping stick, every rod has a purpose to it, and I rely on them all the time when I'm out doing a tournament.
Durability in the John Cruz Worming series, the counterbalancing in the handle.
It's the only rod I found that can withstand my hook set. Boom goes the dynamite.
On the water not spent fishing is a moment wasted. That's why Minn Kota and Humminbird have joined forces to bring you the One Boat Network. Products that communicate and integrate to help you take full command of your boat. Born from our commitment to making the most advanced fishing gear even better by making it work together. The One Boat Network will help you find, get to, stay on, and catch more fish. When One Boat Network products talk to each other, they can navigate your boat automatically. They can give you a crystal clear view of what's below with no messy wires. And they can let you lower, raise, and change shallow water anchor modes from anywhere on the boat. But that's just the beginning. We're never done innovating, integrating, and making your boat simpler and easier to control. All so you can make every second on the water count.
All right, welcome back to Bass University Live. It's time to give away some stuff. It's everybody's favorite part of the show. What are we giving away again, Josh?
We are giving away for our like and share some Waterwood custom baits, and for our grand prize, we're giving away some Cortland line with some baits.
Cortland line, yeah, we got to meet those guys while we were down at ICAST again this past week. They make some amazing braided lines, and their specialty is making colored braided lines that do not fade. And you know why that's important is, like Pete was talking about earlier in our first segment with him, is that it's so important for strike detection when you're fishing for smallmouth or even largemouth. But if you're fishing deep, you got to have that strike detection, and that colored line that Cortland makes, it doesn't fade. So when you're fishing that stuff and you've been fishing it for a couple weeks, you don't lose the color of that yellow braid. It stays the way that you need it to be in order to get that really good strike detection. And it's strong. The strength of their 8-pound braid is equivalent to that of 15 or 20 for most other lines out there. So you really want to check them out. Somebody's going to get lucky today and win some of that stuff.
Yep. And they got new colors coming out too that they were teasing. And me and Pete talked to Fred for a second and Jocelyn, and he was talking about how he's gonna try to go down to the 6-pound test braid because he can't seem to break that 8-pound, and he wants to get even more finesse on him. So just shows you how strong that braid line really is.
Right.
We also had a chance to talk with Marcos from Waterwood Custom Baits, and they are just so cool. You know me, I don't fish that much, but just looking at these, they're really, really cool, and they have really sharp
don't
hooks.
hook yourself, Josh. Yeah,
he's awesome.
Yeah, these
are some really good baits.
The deal. They are well built, that's for sure.
Very well built. Built to win from Marupa Pedra.
There you go.
Love that
Marupa
word.
Pedra.
Marupa.
So, we're going to be giving some stuff away. We got a Facebook like and share.
Yep.
Do we already have that, Josh? Do we have that winner?
We do. It is actually Dan Allen. Congratulations.
On
You won our
Facebook
like
as
and
well?
share. Yep, on Facebook.
Oh my gosh. This guy is just dialed as they come.
Dan the man.
Dan the man.
Unbelievable. Guys, this week on Bash U, stay tuned. We're going to be releasing a seminar from John Murray this Thursday. And it's focused on whether you want to target big fish or you want to target numbers of fish and the different approaches that you have to take. And John has been with us for a really long time. He's a great instructor. He really articulates very well on all of the topics that he instructs on. So you definitely want to check them out. He does a really nice job with them. John Murray is one of those guys that, like, when there's certain people you come across in your life that when they talk, you know, it's like, okay, I need to be listening right now and I need to be locked in. That's the kind of guy that you get with John Murray. So
stay tuned for that one coming out this week. And then over on the on the water release side of things, we got Todd Auten. The Magical Fluke is the name of this seminar, and based on the name, you can tell what it's going to be about. It's going to be about fluke fishing, and that is a really, really unique bait, and it's a fish catching bait that everybody needs to have in their arsenal, myself included. I don't throw it. I should throw it. I've been smacked around by co-anglers in the back of my boat by that thing so many times that it's silly that I still don't pick it up. But this seminar that Todd gave, he breaks down the whole system A to Z on how to fish a fluke, the rod, the reel, the line, what you're looking for, all the different scenarios that you can throw this thing on. So stay tuned for that one. That's going to be coming out tomorrow, actually.
Wow.
Todd Auten with the Magical Fluke. And then coming after that, we got some awesome seminars coming down the pipe. Guys, like we talked about earlier in the show, we shot 9 Bass UTV seminars at ICAST. And here's a little newsbreaker for you. 7 of those 9 instructors have tour level wins in the last 18 months, guys. So we are not, we're getting the best. We're getting the best information from the best in the world. And we're getting the topics that these guys are really, really.
I stabbed myself.
Oh gosh, those sharp hooks. God, I wasn't
Sorry.
sure what happened there, but yeah. Anyway, we're getting awesome content from these guys. Justin, what was your favorite seminar from ICAST?
Am I allowed to tease one?
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay. Oh, easily Dakota Ebear. I
Dakota
think.
Ebear.
Yeah, just it was super cool to see how excited he was to do the seminar, and he talked about like mental approach and stuff
Right.
like that. And
Right.
Those are my favorite seminars.
Yeah.
You know, and he's a winner, man. He's a winner, and he takes a different approach to practicing, and it's super cool seminar. I'm excited.
Yeah,
for
there
it.
was some really good stuff in that. One of the things that stood out to me on that I could never even think about doing, but I'll tease something that he talks about is when he goes to bodies of water that he's familiar with, he deletes all his waypoints.
Yep. That's
when
what I
he
thought
won
was
on
crazy.
Sam Rayburn, which is his home body of water, went in with no waypoints.
Yep.
I couldn't ever do that, but apparently
Does he delete them permanently?
no,
or
he
just
saves
for
them.
that?
He
Okay.
saves them to a card, but when he
Okay.
goes into that new event, he has
Wipes clean.
goes in with clear eyes, and
that's
there's something to be said for that.
You should try it.
Yeah, I should. I definitely should, and there's things to be learned from all these guys. But yeah, I mean, a lot of amazing seminars that we got this week. I think one of my favorites was Brandon Coulter, Wake It, Walk It, or Pop It. And that was a seminar based on wake baits, walking baits, and poppers. And he gave up some super, super juicy modifications that you can do to all those baits to make them perform better under certain scenarios. So that's one I'll be really looking forward to coming out. And there's so many, I could talk about this for hours. So
yeah.
I don't even know where I'm going with this, but
Before
okay,
we
your
end
turn,
the
John.
show, I do want to give a shout out and wish luck to our very own Vegas the Hammer this weekend. He is going to be fishing in the Youth Championship. I think that
on Hartwell.
on Hartwell.
Yeah, well,
Let's
yeah.
go, Vegas.
Yeah,
Yep.
just
Let's
want to
go. He's coming
wish him
off a
some luck.
win.
Yeah,
Mhm.
coming
Him
off a win,
Him
man.
and Ike got the win at Cooper River. It's
How
good
about it?
stuff.
He's on a roll. Let's hope he can keep it. Keep
He's
it going.
He is on a roll. Justin, you have our trivia question?
Yep, let's do it. So the trivia question is going to be, what was the Dean's setup for throwing that Ned rig that he talked about? He was losing some fish on it, but he's going to make some adjustments to fix that up. What was the setup? The rod, the reel, the line. Give as many details as you can on that. Reel
All right.
size.
Rod, reel, line.
Oh my goodness.
So
Dan Allen. Is that right?
Uh,
You're joking.
yeah, that's correct.
It's like you had that already tight.
you already knew. You already knew.
Dan, this is crazy, man. You are.
Are
So
you
I think-
in? Are you in the studio?
On fire.
He must have amazing Wi-Fi. Like he's ahead of everybody else on the stream because
You got bias.
On fire.
All right, Dan, you're the winner.
Congratulations, you won both our
You
prizes.
won both.
All right. Well,
Well,
I
that's
guess that.
I
that
feel like
wraps
we
things up.
missed the dean a lot more. Don't worry, he'll be right back here next week.
Yep.
That's right.
You won't have to
1
deal
gig
with us.
network from Dan Allen.
1 gig network.
All right, guys. Well, thank you for watching Bash U Live. We'll
See you next week.
We'll be right back. See you next week.
I'm Pete Gluszek, the Dean of the Bass University, and we're excited to partner with Waterwood Baits and showcase their innovative handmade approach to making amazing lures.
Hey guys, this is Elite Series Pro Todd Alton here. Just wanted to tell you a little bit about the company Waterwood and their crankbaits and topwaters they're building. They're high quality baits. They're made from a marupa wood that's, grows in the rainforest in Brazil. It's 1.5 in all the Waterwood baits because of the wood will be a staple in my arsenal from here on out. I love it. Spotted bass. It's got the old